King's Quest IV, an adventure game from Sierra released in 1988, is one of the most well-known classics from the era. But how well do people really know it? The family-friendly game that supposedly made people cry has a lot hiding beneath the surface. Today, we're exposing the dirty secrets of King's Quest IV. We're diving into the code. We're finding the hacks, the RNG tricks, and there's some bizarre stuff in here. But I'm not just being figurative about the dirt. There's some mature stuff hiding in this game, and to show you I'm not joking,
Rub self.
You feel better now.
That went undiscovered for 30 years.
But before we get to the secret game mechanics, the hidden developer messages, and all the funny words that trip up the swear detection, we need to start at the beginning. The game opens with copy protection. Players had to consult their manuals to find, for example, the last word in the third paragraph on page 4. Enter it wrong? No game for you. The actual introduction opens with marvelous fanfare. King's Quest IV was the first computer game to support an independent sound card. That meant, instead of this, you could purchase a $550 MT32 to have it sound something like this. Our story begins right where the previous King's Quest game ended. Alexander, long-lost prince of the Kingdom of Daventry, has just rescued his sister Rosella from a terrible dragon. King Graham throws his hat to symbolically pass on his legacy. Suddenly, with the hat in midair, Graham clutches his chest and falls to the ground. Graham is dying. Rosella weeps in the throne room until she hears a voice from the magic mirror. The fairy Genesta tells Rosella of a magic fruit that will save her father's life. Genesta will help Rosella, but only on the condition that she helps her with some unspecified problems. Not one to read the fine print, Rosella agrees, and Genesta teleports her to the land of Tamir. It turns out, Genesta is dying too. An evil fairy, Lolotte, has stolen Genesta's talisman, the source of her power. So, Rosella has 24 hours to retrieve a magic talisman from an evil fairy and to find the magic fruit for her father. The fruit grows on a tiny island within a vast swamp on the other side of the Great Mountains. Genesta disguises Rosella as a peasant girl and uses the last of her strength to fly home. And then, we are alone in a strange land. King's Quest IV is a parser-driven adventure game. Want to do something? Type it out. You move either by clicking the mouse or with the keyboard. That's the 4 directional keys or the numpad, which includes the diagonals. The game world is set up like a cylinder. If you keep walking north or south, you'll eventually wrap around. The same can't be said for east and west. In those directions, you'll eventually get blocked. Now, a word of warning. We're diving deep into the game's mechanics, and I'm explaining how basically everything works, so you will have the entire game spoiled to you if you haven't played already. So, let's start by following this river. In the meadows, Rosella finds a unicorn, but it runs away, frightened. Further downstream is a little house built into the base of a tree. Rosella enters and somehow knows that this is the home of these 7 dwarfs. If you wait 60 seconds and you're standing in this area, or this area in the bedroom, one of the dwarfs arrives and kicks you out. So, to avoid that, Rosella needs to clean up after the dirty dwarfs. Once everything's tidied, the dwarfs come in and... What are they? Oh, okay. They're getting bowls of soup. Rosella joins in, and after chowing down, they leave for the mine. One of them accidentally leaves a pouch full of diamonds. Maybe we can buy the fruit and skip all this adventure-y nonsense. Rosella walks further down the river when another house catches her eye. It looks as if no one has lived in the spooky old house for many years. Spider webs cover the walls and portraits. The grandfather clock still works, and you can read the clock to get the current in-game time. 1 in-game minute is equal to 15 real-time seconds. Also, time doesn't pass if you're in a menu or a text box is on the screen. Upstairs, we find a few dilapidated bedrooms and a nursery. Sadly, you can't ride the horsey. The only thing we pick up, for now, is a complete copy of Shakespeare's plays. A rundown cemetery flanks the side of the mansion. You can read the headstones, of course.
Dr. I. Letsome. When people's ill, they come to I physics, bleeds, and sweats 'em. Sometimes they live, sometimes they die. What's that to I Letsome.
You can also find the grave of Alexander Mackay, a Scottish boxer who died in a boxing match in 1830. This is his real-life epitaph. Further to the east, we find an ominous mountain pathway. We walk up and there are no handrails in this game. If it looks like you can fall off, you probably can. Some of the shorter falls just give you the dizzies, but others give you the Roberta Williams Portrait of Doom. That's the creator of the game. Just look at that sweater. Oh, and in case you're new here, this is a game from 1988. There are no autosaves. Lots of save slots, but if you forget to save, hey, that's on you. This pathway is more safely traversed if you use the mouse.
Uh-oh! Lolotte's goons!
The evil fairy believes Rosella to be a spy and throws her in the dungeon. 30 seconds later, a goon escorts you back to the throne room. Edgar, Lolotte's son, has taken a liking to Rosella. In exchange for your freedom and future rewards, Lolotte demands the unicorn from the meadows. Seems harsh to bring such a beautiful creature to someone so evil, but what else are we gonna do? So here's how the unicorn works. Each screen in the game is a room. When you enter room 20, 26, or 27 for the first time, the unicorn is assigned to one of those rooms at random. The unicorn always waits 4 seconds before running away. Though, because of some complicated stuff with the game engine, that's actually somewhere between 2 and 3 seconds. Discussion for some other time, maybe. If the unicorn is in either room 20 or 26, it'll run to room 27. If the unicorn is in room 27, it'll go to room 26 if it leaves on the left side of the screen, and room 20 if it leaves on the right side. The unicorn's direction is determined by which side Rosella enters. The point is to keep it away from you. So you can chase the poor thing around these 3 screens all day if you like, but nothing seems to help. Not far from the meadow is this pool. Each time you enter, there's a 33% chance of Cupid showing up. The King's Quest games had this thing about using random characters from folklore and mythology. King's Quest II had Dracula for no reason. Anyway, Cupid sets his bow down and has a little splash. I like that one of the synonyms for Cupid is baby. If you get too close and startle Cupid, he flies off, leaving his bow and arrows behind. Now, the game has a weird sense of morality because you can't steal the bow.
You were taught never to steal.
But you can take it. I guess it's the intent that matters. We now have Cupid's bow and 2 golden arrows. You know, Rosella probably needs some practice, and there's no way this could come back to bite us later.
You shoot an arrow into the air. Whoops, you missed.
All right, that's enough practice. Let's go get that beauty.
You aim one of Cupid's golden arrows toward the beautiful unicorn. You let go of the bowstring. Zing! Bullseye! The magnificent unicorn is no longer afraid of you. It's now your friend.
Aw, sweet. But we can't ride it or guide it anywhere. Well, this is an adventure game. Hopefully we'll find something later. Thankfully, our new friend stays put on this screen. Elsewhere, we find the 7 dwarfs hard at work. Now, I'm going to complain a lot about the weird game design, and I feel kind of bad. I mean, I met Roberta Williams recently at the Adventure Game Fanfare, and she was super nice. So, to balance things out, I asked a few friends to share some good things about the game, and I'll be sprinkling those throughout the video. Here's the Adventure Game Geek, who had a few things to say about the dwarfs.
Hello there, fellow adventurers and speedrunners. One of the most memorable things about King's Quest IV for me is the Dwarven mine. I just really like the vibe in there, with all the dwarves merrily mining for gems, and they're so caught up in their activities that they don't even notice Rosella falling off the stairs. Our objective here is to give them back the diamonds they left in their house, which is of course the honourable thing to do rather than keep them for ourselves. Which one is the head dwarf though? I was sure it was the one on the right. Well, it's not any of the others, so it must be this one. Oh well, I guess we weren't standing on his good side before. Anyway, as a reward for our honesty, we're allowed to keep the diamonds and also get a lantern as a bonus.
In thanks, you can try to kiss him, but only if you're 20 pixels away, which is like here.
Kiss shithead.
You attempt to kiss the dwarf, but he seems embarrassed by it.
Wait, what?
Alright, it's time to air out some of those dirty parser secrets. The game has groups of synonyms called word groups, and it responds the same way to all the words in a group. For example, diamond, gem, and jewel all mean the same thing. On occasion, the word groups get a little too inclusive. You can call this a mansion or a shack or a shanty because those are all the same thing. However, there's a word group that will get you this response.
Perhaps you need to purchase a copy of Leisure Suit Larry?
Leisure Suit Larry is, of course, the adult-themed adventure game series by Sierra. And what words are in this group? All the words I'm about to read to you are officially recognized as synonyms by the parser. I can't read this! There's much more to a 3D animated adventure game than meets the eye. Try any action you can think of, even the forbidden. So a lot of these words are probably safe to say, but there are a lot that aren't. For funsies, I asked my community to give me some euphemisms for all of these words. That way, when I have to bleep myself, you can still figure out what the word is. Oh, and if you're watching this with your kids, you may want to send them out of the room until the timestamp over here. You've been warned. All right, the first word is I think I can say that. We can say on YouTube, can't we? Euphemisms for this word include batootie, derriere, jiggle trunk, and tookus. Hole. Brown-eyed cushion hole. Nugget blaster. Bastard. Child out of wedlock. Love child. Scoundrel. Bitch. Female canine. Biatch. Whatever Melicia's dog was called. Bullshit. Cow pie. Codswallop. Cards Against Humanity 2014 Black Friday bonus box.
Today I learned in 2014, to protest Black Friday, Cards Against Humanity only sold boxes labeled bull to Black Friday shoppers for $6 each. The boxes contained actual bull feces and some dug through it looking for a new card but found nothing but feces. The profits were donated to charity.
A damsel's downstairs doorbell. Track point. HOTSPOT. I just don't think I'm ready for the whole network. Rooster. Eggplant. Thunderous. I'm reading some of these for the first time. Rooster connoisseur. Turbulence. Crud. Flim-flam. See you next Tuesday. Vagoogly. It's such a beautiful word. Why substitute? Cedric. Tarnation. Jiminy Cricket. Damn. Ham honk. Ham honk? Frick. The horizontal tango. The beauty of this word cannot be surpassed. Make water. Piddle. Sticky little puddle line from King's Quest V.
Cedric seems to be creating a sticky little puddle at his feet. Now all that's left of the honeycomb is a piece of beef.
Cedric seems to be creating a sticky little puddle at his feet.
Are you okay?
Sugar honey iced tea. Dung. Brown Play-Doh. Head. Brown tinted dimwit. Numbskull. Cedric head. Can we stop with the Cedric jokes already? Manure. Mud pie. All of these words are words that the parser recognizes as inappropriate. Thank you.
Now, there's another feature in the game scripts to combine word groups in certain areas. In the mines, the word group for the dwarfs and the swearing word group are equivalent. So that's why the parser recognizes things like talk to bitches and responds with the correct answer. Beautiful. But none of these fuckers are helping us with that unicorn, so let's try somewhere else.
Oh no! You're caught! The terrible ogre grabs you by the braids and drags you off to an untimely end. Dinner will definitely be on you tonight.
All right, well, maybe not there. Over to the west, we find a little mansion, a shack, with a pier. It doesn't seem like the fish are biting. Wait, sorry. We follow the fisherman back to his house and, it's just a few small things, but it seems like someone was having fun with the responses in this room. The narrator just seems completely fed up with the player. If you type, look at people...
Both a man and a woman are here. Be more specific.
Look at chairs.
Yup. Those are chairs, all right.
Look at fishing pole.
Yup. It's there, all right.
Kiss.
Please be more specific as to whom you want to kiss.
Kiss fisherman.
You think, for a moment, that it might help, but then change your mind.
Wait, what? Help? How exactly? And if you try to kiss the fisherman when he's not there, the narrator says,
There ain't no fisherman here.
Okay, so after you've explored these 30 or so screens in Tamir, and we've talked about most of them, it's really easy to get stuck. Like, for a while you can do your own thing, but chances are you'll get to a point where you're not sure how to progress. Because what you have to do is this. Give the bag of diamonds to the fisherman. In return, we get his fishing pole. Now we need some bait. Whenever you enter room 23 or 29, there's a 50% chance that a robin is trying to pull a worm out of the ground. Scare away the robin, grab the worm. Now go back to the pier and bait the pole.
The fish don't seem to be biting.
But this is misleading. At the end of the fishing animation, the game rolls the dice, and you have a 49% chance of catching a fish. The message makes it seem like you might have to leave and come back, or maybe find a different fishing spot. But no, you just got unlucky, and you should keep casting. Now what? Remember back to the introduction when Genesta flew home? You have to swim in that direction, because you need to make it to Genesta's island, which you don't even know is over there. And the game makes it seem like you shouldn't go in the ocean at all. The fourth time in a row that you transition to an ocean screen, you'll get this message.
You are getting very tired, Rosella.
You then have 10 seconds to get to shore, or Rosella will drown. But that's not all. If you've visited Lolotte and you haven't yet brought her the unicorn, there's a 39% chance of a whale showing up. It swallows you whole with no way to escape. We'll come back to this, trust me. And that's not the end of it. If the whale doesn't appear, there's a chance for a shark attack.
You make a tasty morsel for that hungry shark.
Here's how this nonsense works. Let's say you start swimming from the beach where you saw Genesta take off. If you somehow manage to make it to any of these screens, a shark will appear 100% as long as the whale doesn't get you first. So if you start swimming directly from the screen where you saw Genesta leave, you are guaranteed to die. On every other ocean screen, there's a 20% chance of a shark appearing. And on these screens, the ones just to the west of where you started, there's another 50% chance of sharks on top of that. That's 2 different dice rolls, and if either of them hit, you're dead. So the game does everything it can to dissuade you from swimming this way. And yet, you have to. Genesta's castle is on an island, and to be fair, it is pretty and these screens look nice. Come on, get up there. Jesus. Rosie's thick. Genesta is bedridden, and there's nothing you can really do here. She also has a pet snow leopard for some reason. In fact, there are animals all around the island, mostly birds like this swan, or this peacock that wanders around the beach. It's kind of cool to follow it around because it moves at random and occasionally shows you its plumage. And that's what we're after, a peacock feather. The feather has a 74% chance of appearing on the north side of the island and a 26% chance of appearing on one of these screens. I have no idea why the discrepancy, and it has nothing to do with where the peacock is. Okay, so now we have a fish and we have a feather. Why did we need these? And what do we need to do next? We need to get eaten by the whale. Yeah, that thing we had to absolutely avoid earlier, we now need to purposely trigger, after probably getting eaten by a few sharks first. The whale only swallows Rosella if her y-coordinate is greater than 93 when the time comes. So if you want to avoid it, stay up here. And when you see what you have to do next, you might want to do just that.
Horrors! You have been swallowed by a huge whale! Phew! This place stinks!
So this is impressive and disturbing. There's a skeleton and a bottle bobbing in the whale water. That tongue is enormous, and why does the whale have teeth? We have one goal: get out. You can pick up that bottle and read the message inside, but it's an Easter egg. Each time you read the note, you'll get a random plea for help in one of Sierra's other games.
Sludgeball Hole is holding me prisoner in Space Quest 2. Help me out of this jam!
I see a beautiful mermaid in King's Quest 2, but she won't help me. Tell me what to do!
There are 10 possible responses, and you can keep reading the note to get new ones. However, the code only makes it possible to see 9 of these, so you'll never get the 10th one. Oh no! Help me! I'm stranded on an airplane with a guy named Ken being chased by the KGB and an evil army of henchettes, former church secretaries, game show hostesses, and bimbos. Bye, Leisure Suit Larry goes looking for love in several wrong places. Unfortunately, there are no hints about the problems in this game, so we try to climb the tongue. And try. And try. And try. This is infamous. Watch any playthrough and you'll see people struggle. This book calls it the most difficult part of the game. And to make matters worse, you're on a timer. You have 4 minutes to escape, or Rosella perishes from the noxious fumes. Here's what's happening. In this image, the black and red parts are walkable. The green parts are not, and will send Rosella back down. But there's no way to know this in the game, you just have to use trial and error. This is tricky with the keyboard controls, so if you want to skip all that frustration, do this. With the mouse, click once down in the left-hand corner at the bottom where the tongue starts. Then, click again, right up here. That's it. You can do something similar on this side. A little bonus bug: if you wait long enough, the bottle will float to the base of the tongue, fall off directly on top of it, and Rosie will do a little dance. But what we actually need to do is make the whale sneeze, which is why we needed the peacock feather. I've heard from more than one person that they learned the word uvula from this game. That's the hangy ball thing. Ironically, you don't need to type uvula. The game only cares that you type tickle and doesn't care what comes after as long as it's not an unrecognized word. So, we tickle and get sneezed out. Okay, there's actually one more thing I have to mention before we leave. Remember this book I threw on my table for dramatic effect? I mean, how could you forget? It just happened a minute ago. Along with hints, walkthroughs, and cute line drawings, it has maps. I have the 3rd edition, but the 2nd edition has some extra maps, including my favorite map of all time. See, Most of them are helpful. But this is the map of the whale. Look at how glorious this thing is. At last, we see the outline of a small island to the north. So why did we bother with all that whale stuff? Why couldn't we just swim here? Well, the ocean screens are in a grid, starting with 1, 0 here. Rosella can't make it far without dying, either from sharks or drowning, and the island is way up here at 100, 100. But don't get comfortable. We're on a timer here too, and at the end of it, Rosella dies of exposure. If we brought a fish with us, the death timer is set to 4 minutes, otherwise it's 2 minutes. Now, why would a fish be important? Well, there's a pelican here. When we feed it the fish, it drops a shiny whistle. Blow the whistle, and a cute dolphin shows up. It takes you all the way back to shore. Don't worry, you don't actually have to cross 100 screens. But guess what? You can't finish the game. Because what you were supposed to do is walk over to this shipwreck, search the ground that you, the player, cannot see, and find a golden bridle. And once you leave the island, you can't go back. Now, look, I love this game. It was a magical experience when I played this as a kid. But I also have to be clear and fair. There are no hints for this Whale Island section or why you're doing it in the first place. It's not like the Fisherman tells you about some merchant with a bridle who set sail and never returned. No, you just have to sort of guess. You know, I think we need some positivity. Here's Anna Vigu of the Classic Gamers Guild podcast.
I love this game. I think my dad knew that was going to be the case when he brought it home to me one day. I was about 10 years old, and I didn't know it yet, but I was ready for an adventure in Daventry. I wanted to be swallowed by a whale. I wanted to tame a unicorn, even though I felt pretty guilty about it afterwards. I yearned to go fishing and to swim to an exotic island. I wanted to know what it felt like to turn down love, even though I didn't yet really know what love was. I still dust this game off and play it at least once a year, and every time I do, I appreciate something new about King's Quest IV, The Perils of Rosella.
Thanks, Anna. So, now that we have the golden bridle, we use it on the unicorn and ride to Lolotte's castle. But our labors are not over.
I am desirous of the hen that lays golden eggs. Currently, the hen is kept by the ogre and his wife. Bring me the hen, and you shall have your freedom and a great reward.
So, wait, the ogre has the hen? Oh no. The first time you go to the ogre's house after receiving this quest, an ogress returns carrying a deer for dinner. If the ogress isn't there, like if you leave and come back, or if you came here earlier in the game, there's a 34% chance of the ogre showing up each time you enter the screen. He also has a 40% chance of appearing on the screen just south of his house. He's much more aggressive than his wife, and there's no hiding from him, though you can run away. So we have to get inside to steal the golden hen. We could try knocking. What about breaking a window?
That's vandalism!
So? Fine. What if we just open the front door?
Watch out! A very unfriendly bulldog rushes toward you.
This isn't going very well. So here's what we need to do. A few screens away, there's a pond with a frog in it. Solving this puzzle requires that you know the story of the Frog Prince. Nearby, Rosella finds a bridge with something small underneath it. The parser has kind of a hard time with this. It doesn't understand thing, search bridge doesn't do anything. You have to type look under bridge for Rosella to retrieve a small golden ball. Drop the golden ball at the edge of the pond. Pick up the frog, which is wearing a crown. Kiss the frog as in the tale, not the frog's tail, the story tale, and the frog turns into a prince.
Who are you? I thought you were supposed to be a princess. Why, you're nothing more than a peasant girl. Well, ta-ta, I'm off. Here, you may keep this.
To your surprise, he tosses the little golden crown to you as he takes his leave. Good riddance.
You can also skip all that and take the crown without the kiss, though you'll miss out on a couple points. Now, there's a waterfall over by the cemetery and the mountain path. You can't swim through it normally, but if you don the crown, at our feet is a board, which we'll take. And right inside the cave is a bone fit for a dog. But as long as we're here, we may as well explore.
Oh no! You have been caught by the vicious troll. Fate be what it may, you are dragged off to meet it.
Without a way to see, Rosella's fate is sealed. So, we light the way with the dwarf's lantern, but we're still not safe. There's a nearly 50% chance of the troll spawning on almost every cave screen. The troll will never spawn in this first room when you enter it from the east. This helps on the way out of the cave, but not so much on the way in. Once it appears, the troll will also chase the player across screens, except when you transition from room 75 to room 76. In that case, there's a 50-50 chance that the troll will stop chasing. The troll also can't spawn in this room. From this screen, we can see an opening, a glimmer of hope in the darkness.
Oh my goodness! A chasm!
You can barely see this chasm, and even then, it's at the last possible moment. Save early, save often. So we put down the wooden board we picked up earlier and cross. Now we can make our way to that opening. This is another screen where the troll will never spawn.
A huge muddy swamp spreads eastward. Large moss-covered swamp trees tower overhead, while grass tufts and reedy plants poke up from the mire. You can hear the many chirpings and croakings of unseen swamp creatures.
Trying to walk in the swamp isn't a great idea. You might think to wear the crown, but...
Oh boy, I sure love frog legs.
So we need to jump. Or hop. This is where the F3 repeat command shortcut comes in handy, as you need to type it for every tuft of grass. And on the next screen, the fruit that will save our father's life. Unfortunately, it's guarded by a huge cobra. We can't get around the creature, so... Every time you enter one of these 3 rooms, there's a 40% chance of Pan showing up. Yes, the Greek god with the legs and horns of a goat. Once you exit a screen with Pan on it, he won't spawn on any screen until 2 in-game minutes have ticked over. The ticked over part is important. It's not 2 minutes exactly, but the second time that the clock gets to a new minute. So the first tick over depends on how far into the minute you already are. Also, keep in mind that each in-game minute is only 15 seconds. In short, if you see Pan and leave the screen, it's gonna be a little bit before you can see him anywhere. He's playing a flute, though for some reason it's not a pan flute, but a regular flute. And it's just the sort of thing that we could use to charm a snake. Pan, the god of rustic music, will trade his flute for another instrument. So, there's a minstrel who can show up randomly on one of these 3 screens, and here's how it works. If you enter room 13, the game gets a random number between 1 and 30, then divides by 10. This is integer division, where any fractional result gets thrown out. For example, 12 divided by 10 equals 1.2, get rid of the 0.2 and you're left with 1. So, if you get a random number between 1 and 30, then divide by 10, these are the odds. If the result is 1, then the minstrel shows up here. So, 10 out of 30, 1 out of 3. But if you enter room 14, we don't want none of those wimpy small numbers, no sir. Instead of getting a random 1 through 30 and dividing by 10, we get a random 1 through 300 and divide by 100. If the answer is 2, the minstrel shows up. So it's the same thing. 1 out of 3. But in room 19, they screwed it up and make him appear if the answer is 3, which is only a 1 in 30 chance. So almost nobody finds him here. Once the location of the minstrel is set, he stays there. That is, until 3 in-game minutes have ticked over since you last left the screen. After 3 tick-overs, the minstrel can show up again on any of the 3 screens. But in any case, this guy sucks at his job.
It appears that his musical skills are quite limited, as he plunks and pings his way through an otherwise beautiful song.
What the minstrel needs is a new profession. We give him the book of Shakespeare we found at the mansion, and...
This is wonderful. This gives me a new lease on life. No longer am I a mere minstrel. Now I will become a famous actor.
He then gives you his lute, bids you farewell, and wanders off to stardom.
We then go to Pan, play the lute, and exchange. So, if you're following along, we took a book from a mansion, gave the book to a minstrel for his lute, then gave the lute to Pan for his flute so that we could charm a snake we found behind a cave that we could only get to because we dropped a golden ball in a pond. All that for this triumphant moment.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, the snake hypnosis only lasts 15 seconds, so don't take too long to celebrate. Back through the swamp we go, back through the cave where the troll still has a 50% chance of showing up on nearly every screen, and back to the ogre's house. Doggy's happy with his bone, the one we picked up in the cave. So, now to find the hen that lays the golden egg. The next room over is the kitchen, where the ogress prepares dinner. Other synonyms for this character are giantess, and every one of the naughty no-no words we talked about earlier. If you catch her attention, you can try to run away, but she magically appears in the next room right in front of you? Oh, come on, that's not fair. Upstairs, we can hear clucking sounds from behind this door, but we can't open it. Not even with the axe we find in the bedroom, though we do take that with us. We can't get the hen ourselves, so we need the ogre to get it for us. Here's how that works. As soon as you enter the house, the game sets a 50-second timer. At the end of that 50 seconds, you'll get a warning that the ogre is coming, and you have 10 seconds to hide in this closet. If, however, you went upstairs and came back down, the initial timer starts over and is set to 90 seconds. There's also a completely separate timer that starts when you go upstairs. If you're still here after 60 seconds, the ogress shows up, and it's game over. Does anyone else think this is needlessly complicated? Rosella looks through the keyhole, and I just love the artwork in this one. The wood grain, the animation of the ogre. He eats his dinner, then takes out the hen and gets a golden egg from it. Tuckered out, he falls asleep at the table. Now is our chance. We grab the hen and make a run for it, but the hen starts a squawking and wakes the ogre up. He chases us, but as long as we get to another screen, we'll be safe. Hey, now that we have the hen...
Get golden egg.
Not now. Only 1 golden egg per day.
Eat hen.
Come on, be serious. This hen lays golden eggs.
Yeah, but I'm hungry now. All right, we return the hen to Lolotte. In case you were wondering, it is possible to get pretty far up these bends, but the goons will always catch you. As you might expect, Lolotte wants one more thing. Pandora's box?
With the power and evil of Pandora's box, I would be unstoppable! You wonder if you should be helping her in this way. But what can you do about it? Nothing. Right now.
And she doesn't even know where it is? Just go find the mythical Pandora's box. Maybe someone delivered it to the Dwarfs' house by mistake. Alright, so there's one big area we haven't visited yet. These screens are filled with evil-looking trees. If you get too close to them, what some people may not realize is that there are 6 different random death messages, and they're all punderful.
Wouldn't you know it? You've been caught. You've really gotten yourself out on a limb this time, Rosella. Talk about being torn limb from limb. Time to leave this mortal world. You've been a real sap this time, Rosella. It seems you'll discover your roots, Rosella.
And this is why we brought an axe.
The trees tremble at your might and are frightened by your axe. They will not bother you further.
Now the path is clear to the Skull Cave. Marvelous place to stay. 5 stars.
This is a dismal and dreary cave. Within it reside 3 one-eyed old witches. In the center of the cave, over a hot fire, boils a foul-smelling brew.
One of the witches starts chasing Rosella, and if she catches you, if you're paying attention, you'll notice the other 2 witches passing something between them. It's a glass eye that they share. So let's steal that thing. You have to be in this tiny rectangle and grab their eye. Any closer, and they'll grab you.
Give us back our eye, our eye.
In a design move that's a bit baffling, you have to leave the screen and then come back.
As you re-enter the dismal cave, the 3 one-eyed witches throw something toward you, which lands on the ground.
Here, take it. It'll ward off the undead. You'll need it. Now please, give us back our eye.
I'd be suspicious of anything these old crones have, but we actually need the charmed scarab. And, as foolish as it sounds, you can throw their eye back to them and get points for it. As we leave the cave and try to make sense of our next steps.
Like a heavy blanket, darkness enfolds you.
Remember that clock at the beginning of the game? Well, the game begins at 8 a.m. Once it gets to 9 p.m., night falls. However, under certain conditions, night will come early. If Lolotte has ordered you to find Pandora's box, and you have the scarab, and you have the fruit, the clock gets set to 9 p.m. and day turns to night, after you transition from one outdoor room to another. Aside from the backgrounds being different, which is pretty cool on its own, there are a few changes. The entrance to the mine is locked, as is the Dwarfs' house and the Fisherman's shanty. The sharks are more likely to eat you at night as well. In addition to the 20% chance of an attack generally, there's this line of code. I think it must have been late at night when somebody wrote this because, okay, this first part reads, if night is not false, which we can just simplify to, is it nighttime? Then there's this part. What they're trying to say is pick a random number between 1 and 100, and if it's less than or equal to 40, the sharks show up. But they forgot the 1 here and just put random 100. So instead of getting a random number, I've been told that this returns the RNG seed, which, again, I've been informed, can either be a really big positive number or a really small negative number. So in a practical sense, this turns out to be a coin flip. But it doesn't even matter, because going into the ocean at all during the night is a death sentence. On the first nighttime ocean screen transition, the game sends you to coordinate 1000, 1000. And when you inevitably drown, the game tells you,
the ocean confuses you at night. Panicking, you lose control and drown.
Oh, and there are zombies in the graveyard. Lots and lots of zombies. Thankfully, we have our undead protection charm, and the zombies disappear as soon as they get close. If we didn't have this, we'd be doomed to wander forever. There's even a zombie who pops up when you get too close to the mansion's front door. But it doesn't appear at all if you have the scarab.
What's that you hear? Why, it's the sound of a crying baby, and it's coming from upstairs. With trepidation, you peek into the rocking cradle and see nothing. Tentatively, you reach your hand into it. There's nothing there.
So we need to find a way to help the baby ghost. One of the headstones tells the story of Hiram Bennett, who died at 6 months old. Back in the parlor, if we look at the portrait, Rosella follows the eyes to a spot on the wall. Flip a hidden latch, and a door appears to the bottom of a tower. Rosella takes the shovel, and you carefully dig a small hole at the poor baby's grave. And you uncover a silver baby's rattle. You can also play with it a little before you give it back.
Shake, rattle.
Okay. You playfully shake the silver baby rattle. Actually, you feel a little silly doing this.
Give the baby its rattle, and it stops crying. But the fun isn't over. In total, we have to placate 5 different ghosts by digging up their graves. And there's no room for error here. When you use the shovel the 6th time, it breaks. Which means if you make a single mistake, you can't finish the game. You also can't go around to all 5 graves in a row. You have to repeatedly travel from the graveyard back to the mansion to meet the ghost each time before you dig up its grave. You help the ghost of a miser who wants his coins, a weeping woman who wants her locket, and the former lord of the manor who wants his medal of honor. There's also a fun moment if you wear the woman's locket before giving it back.
Fine. You wear the locket.
While the woman stays in this bedroom, some of the other ghosts aren't so stationary. Finding the miser can be annoying because of the way he moves. Every time Rosella switches rooms, the miser moves to a new position. These rooms are in a fixed order. The direction he walks in changes as well. Of course, no one playing casually actually figures this out, they just wander around until they get lucky. The Lord spawns randomly. He can be in any of the downstairs rooms except the base of the tower, and there's a 50% chance of him showing up on any of those screens. The 5th ghost is a boy who opens the door to the attic. He wants his toy horse. When you return it, he disappears off the top of this chest. You then open it to find sheet music. So we head back to that tower. And oh man, if you thought the cliffs were bad, this is where the fun starts. It is super easy to fall off here. And when the stairs curve around, the up and down controls invert and it just feels weird. Okay, so the controls aren't technically inverted. Pressing down always makes you go down on the screen, for example. But the way the stairs are constructed, moving down makes Rosella go away from the wall here and towards the wall here, so it feels inverted. But to give credit where it's due, the art is great, it looks pretty creepy, and if you use the mouse, walking up is a lot easier. At the top of the tower, we find an organ. Do not ask me how this got up here. I do not think that these stairs could support the weight even in their prime, but whatever. Thankfully, Rosella was trained in many instruments and will happily play if you tell her to. And nothing. You have to specify the sheet music, and a secret compartment opens with a key inside. This key opens the crypt in the East Graveyard, which you, dear viewer, may not have even noticed. And for some reason, it's an Egyptian crypt with hieroglyphics. Fits the spooky theme, even if it stretches the logic a little bit.
Look out for the mummy! The mummy runs from your powerful scarab.
Okay. And in the corner, finally, for some reason, is Pandora's box. You can open it yourself for one of the more creative deaths.
That was very foolish, Rosella. Now look what you've gone and done. You've loosed the terrible demons and killed yourself in the process.
But, of course, we need to give the box to Lolotte. So, while the goons take us to the castle, let's talk about what just happened. I love the vibes of this section. The spooky mansion, the ghosts. At the same time, it's just also kind of unfair. If you don't find the scarab, you'll die at the zombies. And if you do have the scarab, it's annoying having to bat away these text boxes. Yes, I know, I'm safe, trying to dig here, leave me alone. And the limited use shovel? Come on! The stairs are a pain, and why is this mummy here if it's just gonna go right back into its sarcophagus? None of this seems connected, you're just trying stuff because you have nothing else to do. Okay, that's too much complaining. Here's Paul Corman, developer of the point-and-click adventure game The Phantom Fellows, to spread a little more positivity.
Oh, hi there. Okay, that's a mistake. Didn't see you come in there. My name's Paul, and I'm here to tell you about my favorite moment from King's Quest IV. Lunchbox, please. That moment is when night turns to day, because it made me feel feelings. And it's good to feel feelings, and it's refreshing that they weren't feelings of pure confusion, because all adult life seems to be is walking around just confused while confusing others. The reason I picked From Night to Day is kind of a representation of what this game as a whole is to me, which is a pleasant surprise and an utter enjoyment. See, I didn't have nostalgia for this game. I didn't play it growing up. I just played it a few years ago. And this game was kind of proof to me that you don't have to have nostalgia to enjoy a Sierra game. Like, it was really fun, and I was emotionally invested. And I credit that a lot to the shift from night to day, where Roberta's typical fairy tale world suddenly transforms into a nightmare with zombies and, scary things. Ghosts. That was the word. How did I not think of the word ghosts? So yeah, my favorite moment is when night turns to day. The tonal shift behind it is remarkable, and it stands as this potent memory to me to always give new old Sierra games a try, because they hold up in modern day. And this game is proof of that. At least with a walkthrough.
All right, good. I can already feel my blood pressure lowering. But you know what? I fibbed a little bit earlier. Something that most people don't realize, something I never realized until recently. If you know exactly which graves to dig up, it is barely possible to avoid the zombies without getting the scarab charm. You have to be strategic about where you enter the screen and save a lot and turn the cycles up so that Rosella digs faster, or if you're running the game at slower speeds, you have to use a glitch, but you can do it. You can finish the ghost section of the game with no scarab. Oh, and that zombie who pops up at the front door, if you hug the bush on the right, you can get just close enough to open the door from a distance. Unfortunately, if you get past the zombies, you'll still die at the mummy. Unless you use a glitch that's only in an early version of the game, but that aside, the programmers didn't even expect people to pull this off, as evidenced by these lines.
How did you get here without the scarab? You will be the next victim of the mummy. Boy, these guys are sometimes fast for their age.
Okay, let's get back to Rosella in Lolotte's castle, having just returned Pandora's box.
Well, Rosella, you've earned your reward. My son Edgar has fallen in love with you. I wish him to be happy, and I give you the honor of being his wife and my daughter-in-law. You'll be married first thing in the morning.
The goons take away all your things and escort you to Edgar's room. You are to stay the night here while Edgar sleeps elsewhere. The door is, predictably, locked. So as Rosella contemplates her fate, let's talk about a few things that I couldn't fit in anywhere else. The swearing isn't just confined to the parser. Sometimes Sierra would slip in some naughty names for the scripts. For example, the code that throws Rosella out of the dwarf's house is called Bounce Bit Script. Here's some random bits of fun with the parser. If you look at the moon during the day, the wrong message displays.
It's a beautiful night.
And if you look at the moon at night on any of the beach screens, the game says that you don't see one and then gives you the message for when you type something the game doesn't recognize. It works on every other screen though. If you try to look under the water on the little island or behind the waterfall, the narrator yells at you.
You're not in the water.
Get in the water, and she gets an attitude.
You look under the water and see nothing but more water.
Delicious fresh water over here. Yucky ocean water just a step or two over there. How many palm trees does this island have? If you look at the island, it has 2. But if you look at the trees, there's only 1. If you type hit, kick, punch, slap, or strike, the game will tell you that you're not a violent girl. However, after you pick up the axe, you'll never get this message again. That's because the game thinks you want to attack the evil trees, as in hit trees or strike trees. And because all these words are synonymous, you can also type kick trees and Rosella will swing her axe. You can try to kill a number of things in the game.
Kill fairies.
You are not a murderous girl, Rosella.
Kill Genesta.
That is definitely not the thing to do.
Kill leopard.
Oh yeah, you're going to kill a big snow leopard with your bare hands.
Kill ghost.
How can you kill something that is already dead?
Along those same lines, you can try to kiss almost everything in the game. In fact, this needs its own section. As you may well know, you can try to kiss just about everything in King's Quest IV. So today we're going to be doing a kiss tier list where we look at everything you can kiss and rank it. Say hello to YouTube chat. Actually, that's half true. This section went on too long, so you're getting the highlights here, but you can watch the full version on my second channel. So if you try to kiss the bulldog, it says he wouldn't like it and neither would you. So B tier for good boy. That is an excellent point. Yeah, hello there. You're rushing at me with amorous intent. If you try to kiss any of the birds, like the crow in this picture, it says not this bird, which I understand the meaning behind it, but I sort of like to interpret it literally as if there is some bird somewhere that you could possibly kiss. That'll go in B. Trying to kiss Cupid. You can't get close enough to do that, which again, it's not that it's inappropriate to kiss Cupid. It's just you physically can't. See? Okay, I could be persuaded. If you try to kiss the fairies inside of the castle, it says the little fairies do not need kissing. And there's something about the phrasing here. Let's put that in A. That's sort of what I was thinking. If you try to kiss the fisherman, you think for a moment that it might help, but then change your mind. I don't know if I like the implications here, folks. And keep in mind, his wife is in the room with him. This is D for do not do that. All right, if you try to kiss Genesta, this is the fairy who you're supposed to heal. She needs her talisman, not a kiss. And I like the forcefulness of like, what are you doing? Let's put that in A. Not sure how I feel about this one. If you try to kiss the seagull, it just says you can't kiss a seagull. To which I say, watch me try, game. F for factually incorrect. I don't have an F tier, so we'll put that in D, bottom of the barrel.
Except the seagull is on top of the barrel.
This next one is a special one. If you try to kiss something that you could pick up in the game, but currently don't have, the game tells you your pucker isn't working right now. And I feel like for the use of the word pucker, I'll put it in S just because we haven't had too many of those yet. If you try to kiss any of the birds on this screen, there's no need for that. I think this is kind of a D response, because let's be honest, you do weirder stuff in a King's Quest game than kiss birds. So like there might, like for all I know, there might be a need for it. And don't tell me what I need to do, game. If you try to kiss the mummy, it says, what a horrible thought. Oh, Renault, that would have been so much better. You wouldn't want to get wrapped up in that relationship. That would have been a lot better. You think of C? All right. This is for the ogre. He wouldn't like it, and neither would you. This game assumes a lot. Well, yeah, I mean, maybe you would like to kiss him before he drags you off and puts you in a pot for dinner. You can put that in C. This next one, do not even try to tell me that this is a C, because it's got to be at least a B. If you try to kiss Pan, it says he's too strange to kiss. I mean, strange people deserve to be kissed too, you know. I mean, we're all a little bit strange. Now, I'm seeing B's, so we would put it in B. That's fair. Of the things in your inventory, I believe this is the only thing you can actually kiss. You can kiss the talisman. So we get some lip on talisman action here. I'm going to put that in A. If you try to kiss the troll in the cave, the one who runs after you, it just says, are you sure you're all right? All right, people are saying S. My goodness. If you kiss the unicorn, it reads, you plant a big kiss on the velvety nose of the beautiful unicorn. For the word velvety alone, this has to be an S. This is an S tier, solid. I was gonna fight every one of you in chat who disagreed. This is S tier all the way. Kissing the unicorn. And there we have it, our kiss tier list for King's Quest IV. Thank you, chat, for cooperating and indulging me in this bout of silliness. Oh my. So we were talking about random stuff that I couldn't fit elsewhere, huh? So let's do more of that. You may not have tracked all of it, but there are a lot of dead ends. Situations where you can technically keep playing, but you won't be able to finish. If the whale swallows Rosella and she doesn't have the fish, she won't be able to feed the pelican when she reaches the island. And if you don't have the feather, you won't be able to get out of the whale. If you give the bag of diamonds to the fisherman before trying to give it back to the dwarfs, there's no way to get the lantern, and you won't be able to navigate through the caves. Technically, you can finish the game without the fruit, but only if you're happy with the bad ending. We'll get to that later. At the ogre's house, if you wait in the closet long enough, the ogre will eventually leave and you can never get the hen. After you leave the ogre's house with the hen, you can't come back, so if you don't pick up the axe, you can't scare the trees, which means you can't get the scarab and you'll die at the zombies or the mummy if you make it that far. Dig up one wrong grave and the shovel will break before you can finish. Wait until nightfall without getting the gems, lantern, and fishing pole, and you can't get them ever because the fishermen and the dwarfs won't let you in. And if you're interested in King's Quest IV, but these things sound frustrating, and you're not really keen on typing, King's Quest IV Retold is a fan remake that uses the same base graphics and faithfully recreates the game, but with several enhancements. It adds a point-and-click interface, a visual inventory, autosaves, and the ability to turn off dead ends. It also has digital sound effects and improved visibility in the cave. I love this, and if you want to play the game yourself, this is honestly the version I recommend to modern audiences. There's a link in the description, and it's entirely free. Several other fan remakes have been started over the years, but nothing's been completed. Yet. Here's something that almost moved me to tears when I first saw it. Yes, really, this isn't just marketing copy. The game originally came out in 1988. The version you've been looking at is the re-release from 1989. This is the version you'll get if you buy the game on Steam or GOG, and it's the one most people are familiar with. For the 1989 version, Sierra cut down on the number of 5¼ discs from 9 to 8 to save money on production costs. But those data savings had to come from somewhere, so they went through the art, screen by screen, and removed detail. Here's the first screen. Notice the boundary where the grass meets the sand? The mansion used to have cracks in the facade. Nearly every screen is simplified. One exception is the giant skull, which is more detailed in the re-release, and I think it looks better. I also like the shadow on the ogre's house. You could also argue that the new art has better atmospheric perspective. The farther away things are, the less detailed they ought to be. And in daylight, those things also look slightly bluer. So the later version is more realistic in that respect. Then again, the original had dedicated nighttime screens. These are actually separate screens for the night. The updated version gets rid of those and instead puts an overlay on top of the daytime screens. The skull looks particularly funny. I imagine most people have never played the game the way it was originally intended. But you know, the more I look at these screens, the more I think it's not an easy comparison. There are things the 89 version does really well, and some of the 88 screens come across as too cluttered. I mostly just wish storefronts would give you the option. Okay, side story to the side story. In the first version of the game with these new graphics, there was a nasty bug. The game shipped without the asset used to animate the river's current on the screen with the waterfall. Walking onto the screen crashes the game because the game's trying to load some art that isn't there. But at the beginning of the game, there's a speed test to see whether your computer can handle things like the animated river. so on slower computers, the game never tries to load the asset and doesn't crash. That means some players tripped the bug and others didn't. This was patched soon afterwards. But there's another hilarious bug in this version that wasn't patched. Remember, this was the first version to come with overlays for nighttime instead of dedicated screens. So when Sierra updated the scripts to use the new overlays, they forgot to update one of them. If you ride the unicorn at night, the game only draws the overlay and the screen is almost entirely white. This is fixed in later versions and in ScumVM. So kudos to Sluicebox for tracking down this obscure version of King's Quest IV that almost nobody has, and for fixing a bug that almost no one has ever seen. But there's another version that certainly wasn't an upgrade in graphics. King's Quest IV was the first game to use Sierra's new game engine, SCI or Sierra Creative Interpreter. The previous engine was AGI, the Adventure Game Interpreter. To quote Sean Mills' book, The Sierra Adventure, while Sierra was at the cutting edge of technology and always wanted to innovate, they also believed a lot of their existing customers wouldn't necessarily have the latest hardware. To ensure the game was available to those with older computers, a second version of King's Quest IV was developed simultaneously. This version used the old AGI engine, and as such was limited graphically. This one didn't sell very well. It seemed PC users were staying with the times more than Sierra realized. The SCI version continued flying off shelves, and the AGI version was quietly discontinued. The graphics weren't the only difference, however. In the days of floppy disk games, piracy was a legitimate concern. If you enter debug mode at the copy protection screen and type pirate, you'll get one of these two screens. This happens only in the debug menu and doesn't play if you just put the wrong word into the copy protection. In the AGI version, you have to wait a bit longer for Nightfall. When you have the scarab and fruit, the game sets the in-game time to 8:41, and you have to wait 19 in-game minutes, 4 minutes and 45 seconds in real time. There's a hidden message in the AGI version. Each screen has what's called a priority image that handles which things are in front of or behind other things. In the Witch's Cave, someone used the priority colors to write, "John was here," and draw a self-portrait. Speaking of Easter eggs in the AGI version, there's a 1 in 254 chance of a dwarf belching during the soup-eating sequence. At the end of the game, which we'll get to in a moment, you can type "Beam me" outside of Lolotte's dungeon. Rosella beams up to a spaceship where she meets the programmers. If you go into the dungeon and type "Rap KQ," Rosella will start dancing and rapping. If you can even call it that, there's no sense of consistent rhythm in the lines, to be honest, but whatever. The lyrics are all about how hard Roberta Williams made them work. More changes coming from the Burt every day, but we just had to say, no way. Okay, back to Rosella, trapped in the bedroom, destined to become Mrs. Edgar. After 30 seconds of Rosella panicking,
you hear something at the door.
Edgar slips a rose under the door with a key attached. You can wait for another 2 minutes. Night will turn to day, you'll be married, and that's the end of your journey. Most players, though, will use the key to unlock the door and escape. If you thought the stairs in the mansion tower were bad, these are even worse with how the wall obscures your vision. If you make it to the bottom, you'll find one of Lolotte's goons sleeping. Get too close, specifically 20 pixels, and it's back to your room with no way to escape. Hello, Mrs. Edgar. In the next 2 rooms, the goons work a little differently. The henchmen will still chase you if you get within 20 pixels, or if all of the following are true. Rosella's vertical position is less than 140. That's everywhere I've highlighted on these 2 screens. Rosella's distance from the goon is less than 45 pixels, and you pass an RNG check that has a chance of 4 out of 1,000. Now, that sounds low, but this check happens on every game cycle. In short, get this close and you'll get chased for sure. Get this close and you'll get chased eventually if you stay there. I do not know why they made it this complicated. Also, as far as I can tell, it's impossible to outrun this goon. But According to the code, if you're being chased and you make it to the bottom of the west stairs, you'll get this message.
I don't know how you did it, but you managed to escape Lolotte's henchmen. You might not be so lucky next time. Watch out.
Okay, one short eye from the future here. It is possible to outrun this goon as shown by Speedrunner SwimFan. Wait, where's the message? Oh, it doesn't display because the script is bugged. The message only shows when Rosella is being chased by a goon, which makes sense. Except when you exit this room, the game says that the chase is over. That's right, there's a secret message that no one sees because they don't trigger it, but even if they did, they wouldn't see it anyway. That's a lot of video runtime to explain that nothing happens. And it gets even more complicated on the other side of the castle. The other goon is a different story. With practice, you can outrun him and get the same message in the east stairs. Maybe, because unlike the other staircase, even if you make it to this room, there's only a 9.9% chance of escaping. Don't even tell me that you knew about that. Okay, so I just can't let this go. You may have been wondering about the weird RNG chances. 9.9%, 74%, 50 out of 101. Here's what's going on. It's kind of not intentional. Let's say you wanted something to be 50-50, kind of like a coin flip in the game. What you could do is ask the game to give you one of two random numbers, like give me either 0 or 1. But for the most part, King's Quest IV doesn't do that. Instead, they get a random number between 1 and 100, and then if it's less than 50, we'll do something. Except, wait a minute, the biggest number that's less than 50 is not 50, it's 49. We forgot about the equal sign here. And sometimes they would ask for a number between 0 and 100. That's not 100 numbers, that's 101. So take all that together and you get odds that are close to a round number, but not quite. Now, look, none of this matters for casual play, I will admit that. But if you're someone like, I don't know, me, who's trying to make the ultimate King's Quest IV video, the King's Quest IV video to end all King's Quest IV videos, this is a massive pain in the jiggle trunk. I have had to re-record at least 5 or 6 sections because people more observant than me have pointed out that I can't count. And you know what? You might say, oh, that's okay. It's fine to be off by less than a percentage point. But you know what? I have not worked on this video for 4 months, maybe longer. I don't even know what day it is anymore, only to have my quest for accuracy thwarted by a single percentage point. Anyway, we grab our stuff from the storeroom and make our way up the East Tower. And this is the worst one of all, because you have 2 parts of the staircase that overlap over an obscured landing, and it's impossible to navigate this smoothly. We also have the same problem as before with the inverted controls. It's wonky. And finally, we arrive at Lolotte's bedroom. Use the key.
Which key do you want to use? The gold key or the skeleton key?
Use the gold key to open her door. Now, I know that Rosella isn't a violent girl, but this is serious business. Lolotte is pure evil. The only weapon we have is Cupid's bow. Maybe we can make her a friend?
Sorry, girl, you have no more arrows.
Oh. Yeah, you only get 2 arrows in this game, one for the unicorn and one for Lolotte. So if you wasted even one of them, you're screwed. You cannot finish the game. If you have an arrow left, however.
Lolotte sits straight up in bed, a look of agony upon her face. What did you do to me? She shrieks. I'm melting! No, wait, that's another story. Let's try that again. It hurts! It hurts! Stop the pain! Stop it! You cringe as you watch the evil fairy die a painful death. What happened, you wonder? How could Cupid's arrow have done that? You thought that those arrows were harmless and contained only love. Wait, That must be it. Love. Lolotte was so evil that when all that pure love entered her body, it acted as a poison to her system. In spite of yourself, you feel a sense of sweet revenge.
With Lolotte dead, a new day dawns. The narrator, in keeping with her character, feels no sympathy whatsoever for the deceased.
Look room.
So, this is Lolotte's bedchamber. You question her taste in decorating as her furniture is a bit on the gaudy side. However, since Lolotte is now dead, it doesn't really matter anymore.
But of course, we can't forget Genesta's talisman, the thing that set us on our whole quest to begin with, the guiding light throughout the entire game.
Okay.
Just after his mother died, Edgar told us we were free to roam about the castle, so that's what we do. The goons no longer chase Rosella, but bow to her in gratitude. The game calls this action, am I allowed to say this on YouTube? Behind this door is the magic hen. This bit of music is called the chicken reel, by the way, and if you want a history of that song in Sierra games, the Space Quest historian has a video on that. We also find Pandora's box. Picking up either the hen or the box is optional. We can also, if we wish, free the unicorn from the stable. There's something funny here that programmers in the audience might empathize with. There's a variable that keeps track of the unicorn's state, and each state is a number. State 0 is the default state at the beginning of the game. State 1 is after shooting the unicorn. 2 is bridled. 3 is riding. But then the number jumps, as if someone said, whoa, slow down there. What if we need room for more states in between later? So the unicorn being at Lolotte's castle is state 99. And when you free the unicorn at the end, that's state 999. These are the only states in the game. Rosella has one more twisty pathway. If we want, we can return Pandora's box, lock the crypt, and kick the key under the door so that no one can ever get inside. This, again, is optional, but you do get points for it. We make our way across the meadow, and in perhaps the saddest moment of the game, the unicorn no longer trusts Rosella. And it's off to Genesta's island. And yes, the sharks are still here. This is especially fun for speedrunning.
Yeah, let's do it. One last shark. Why not another? There, great. Fine, wonderful. Let's just, one more. Please, give it to me. Yes! I love it!
Now, before we see the real ending, let's talk about two alternates. I've already explained how day turns to night. Oddly, if you keep waiting, night will never turn back to day. Here's the meadow at a little after 7 a.m. At 8 a.m., exactly 24 hours after the game started, you'll get this message.
Your 24 hours are up. Unfortunately for you and Tamir, both Genesta and your father, King Graham, have died. It looks like you're destined to stay here in Tamir forever, and evil will rule the land. What a shame.
In the AGI version, you'll get a special cutscene for this. There's another ending if you completed the game but never found the magic fruit. Or if you do find the fruit and eat it yourself. I like doing this right at the end of the game for maximum disappointment. In that case, Genesta's talisman heals her, but she delivers some bad news.
You performed so heroically for all of us here in Tamir, but you forgot one thing. You forgot the magic fruit for your father. Well, it's too late now. I must immediately return you to Daventry, so you may at least bid him goodbye.
Rosella makes it home just in time to watch King Graham die. But in our canon playthrough, here's what happens. If you grab the hen from the castle, you'll return it to Genesta on the beach for the last 2 points of the game. This also happens in the bad ending. Genesta then summons Edgar and turns him into a normal human. Or as normal as these graphics could manage.
This handsome hunk is Edgar?
Rosella, I love you. Will you marry me?
You think about it. You think about it some more.
I'm sorry, Edgar. You're very sweet, but I must immediately return home. Perhaps we'll meet again.
Well, Rosella, it's time for you to go. Your father desperately needs you. Goodbye. We'll never forget you.
Back at home, Rosella quickly gives King Graham a bite of the fruit, and his health returns.
What is in this fruit, anyway?
Say something positive about King's Quest IV. You're really going to make me do this, huh? Well, a couple of things spring to mind. First of all, the music is absolutely fantastic. Probably the best music score of the whole series. Sorry, Ken. Second of all, the technical amazing things they did, the day and night cycle, of course, the Sierra SCI engine being a massive step forward in terms of, just progress, technological progress, compared to the AGI version. The interesting decision to make both an SCI version and an AGI version, so the effort that went into that is unquestionable. But I think the most positive thing I can say about King's Quest IV is that it dared to have a female protagonist and a cast dominated by women in an era where that was just practically unheard of, especially in a fantasy setting. So big up to Roberta Williams for taking that chance and for executing it so well. Yeah, those are the positive things I can say about King's Quest IV. Now, to run down the list of things I didn't like.
So, King's Quest IV. It's a frustrating experience at times with all the randomness and the dead ends and not always knowing what you should do. But at the time, this was an enormous leap in the series, both graphically and musically. The witches and the mansion are genuinely spooky. I'm still anxious playing through the troll cave and Lolotte's castle. The meadows feel peaceful. And how could you not love that unicorn? And for all the game's dirtiness and foul-mouthed synonyms, Rosella maintains her dignity and modesty throughout.
Undress.
Not in front of the game, players! Okay. Is it okay if I don't do this next one?
You don't need to do this one. I was going to say you do not need to do that one. I almost feel it has to go in the video.
No, that's hilarious though.
But
why would you do that?
And I talked to Fred's like, am I reading this right? But so the other ways you can trigger it are for the first word, it's either polish or rub. Either one will work.
Okay.
And the second word is either self, Rosella, Rosie, or me. And I'm like, okay, there's no, it means what we think it means, right? Like there's no,
I just try to walk a line where I try to keep my online presence pretty PG. So that's just kind of like a personal thing.
Understood.
But
Completely, yeah. But you can see why I have to mention it. I have to find somebody to
no
voice.
judgment at all. None whatsoever.
This handsome hunk is Edgar. Rosella, blah, 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 fucking blah.